purposefully different in how I discipline my children because of that. But I still believe that, like in the Bible, right? Not spare the rod. I don't beat my kids, but I'm still firm with them.
Yeah.
But not as firm as maybe how children were raised, especially like back in the day.
Oh, back in the day, you're getting fist fights with your parents. All right, guys, from Minneapolis today, Tony Wells. Thanks for flying in, man.
Dude, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I haven't had many guests from Minneapolis on, so I'm excited to learn more about the city. And you're at the Timberwolves games all the time, right?
You're right. Yeah. So I'm glad to be here and represent the Midwest.
Let's go. How long you been out there?
My whole life. Yeah. Born and raised Minnesota boy. We lived in California, Newport Beach for around 5 years. But ultimately we came back to Minnesota about 2017. So,
nice.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of growth in that city, right?
It's I was saying the rural towns. So there used to be a lot of I call it like the farm towns, and now it's all suburbia.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, because you grew up in Trailer Park, right? You had some
did.
humble beginnings.
Yes, sir.
How long were you there? Your whole life?
No, so I was living in Trailer Park till about 4th grade. Yeah, so my mom and dad were divorced when I was 3 years old. Mom was on welfare. My dad lived in a trailer park. And then in 4th grade, I moved up to a city called Champlin with my mom, my stepdad, and got 2 sisters, from them. But yeah, it's the life that I live today is a lot different.
Yeah.
Than I was used to growing up as a kid, for sure.
Do you think you got that hustle mentality from back in the early days, wanting to work really hard?
I think so. I grew up with no money, so for me it was I always wanted to fit in, right? So if the kids were wearing polo designer clothes, like I wanted to wear that too. Back then it was wearing Jordans, or it was wearing the Reebok pump shoes. But, my family couldn't afford it, so I'm not proud of this, but, for me, in order to get that, I was either stealing, or at the age of 15, I was selling dope.
Damn.
And that's how I was able to get those kind of clothes.
Yeah.
My family couldn't.
I used to shoplift a little bit.
Oh, you did?
I got caught and I haven't done it since.
Yeah. I got caught as well. Yeah.
I got humbled. They took me in do you know what Wegmans is?
No.
It's a grocery store on the East Coast. I grew up in Jersey.
Okay.
But I got caught stealing, and they took me in the security room. My mom had to pick me up. Super embarrassing. I haven't stole since.
So what were you stealing?
Dumb shit, dude. I was a kid, like candy and like, I don't know, gift cards, whatever.
Okay.
It wasn't worth it.
Okay.
They put me on the wall of shame.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't stolen since.
Yeah. So if I was to go there now, would you still be up on that wall of fame?
Hopefully not.
Wall of shame?
You could check. Bridgewater, New Jersey with
Okay.
Wegmans.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of my worst habits when I was a kid.
Yeah, the shoplifting, and then, I was a drug addict by the time I was 14 years old.
Wow, that's young. Drug addict at 14. Damn. Did it start with weed and kind of work its way up?
Yep, start with weed.
That's what they say. It's not a gateway drug, but I think that's BS.
For me, it was, it didn't start with weed. It actually started with drinking. So we used to get drunk, before school. So we'd meet up at a friend's house about 6:30 in the morning.
Jeez.
We start to get drunk.
That's so early.
And then what would happen was we get into school, and kids would start to pass out.
Yeah.
Right. And then the teachers would catch on. So then we had to figure out, well, how can we get high and still function, or at least not get kicked out of class. And that's how weed came into play. And then back then, I'm 45 years old. How old are you?
28.
Okay, so I'm 45. So back then we had these little wooden dugouts. And so basically we would pack weed on one side, and then you put a little oney on the other, and then just take little one hitters.
Like a one hitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I caught the tail end of that.
Okay.
Saw some of those.
Okay.
We did gravity bongs where I grew up.
What's a gravity bong?
You never heard of that? Oh, man.
Maybe we didn't call it that, so explain it to me.
You put I don't even know what to call it, but you put a hole at the bottom of a water bottle.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you put on the cap, you put a hole in it.
Okay.
And you light the weed in like a socket on the cap, and then you lift up with water. So it just fills with smoke.
I was so high back then, but I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, those were deadly, dude.
I mean, with the bongs.
It was pretty much a bong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it
So
homemade
picture
bong?
a whole water bottle full of weed vapor. You would inhale the whole thing.
What about out of apples?
We've done apples, yeah.
Right.
Apple bowls.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done that before. Yeah.
Hey guys, shout out to today's sponsor, Kinsta. Running an online business is already a challenge. Your website hosting shouldn't make it harder, and I've been there, dealing with slow load times, confusing dashboards, and unreliable support. That's why I switched over to Kinsta, and it's been a game changer for my brand. Since moving to Kinsta, my site loads faster, runs smoother, and I don't have to stress about downtime. Their intuitive dashboard makes managing everything simple, and their 24/7 expert support means I always have real people whenever to help when I need it. Kinsta's built for performance with blazing fast speeds, enterprise-level security, and 37 global data centers to ensure your site reaches audiences quickly. They also handle free migrations, so switching is effortless, and if you ever get a traffic spike, Kinsta automatically scales to keep your site online when it matters most. I'm not the only one who trusts Kinsta. TripAdvisor, NASA, Indeed, and over 120,000 businesses rely on Kinsta for their WordPress hosting. So if you want hosting that works, just make the switch to Kinsta today. Get your first month free. They'll even handle the migration for you. Just visit kinsta.com/DSH to get started. That's KINSTA.com/DSH.
I used to be a huge stoner, but then I got terrible anxiety when I got high.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, terrible anxiety.
And I'm an extrovert.
I'm
So
not.
you're an introvert?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm an extrovert. So what it would do for me is that actually, like, I call it stuck. Like,
You would shut down.
I'd shut down. Like, I couldn't even like communicate with people.
Mm.
So I didn't like it. So then what I do is I got into like mushrooms and acid and stuff.
Mm.
And what that did is, I'd see like all the, I'd be looking at like wood and it looks like it's like melting and
Mhm.
see faces and things like that. But for me, like all drugs, so I'm 18 years sober. I want to say that.
Mhm.
So all drugs for me, they always start out good and and then they all go bad.
Yeah.
So for the smoking the pot, right? Like it was good because it got me through school, like through the school day. But then it started like mess with my mental where I wasn't able to communicate with people.
Mm.
And being an extrovert, that was out of my like normal chemistry.
Right.
Then I got into drinking, but I'm an alcoholic. So when I drink, like I'm not just having, like one drink.
Mm.
Like for me, it's give me the beer and then give me the shot though. I want the shot of tequila or the whiskey so I can hurry up and get to that level.
Mm.
And then I'm gonna have that beer and then we can just hang out.
Maintain.
But when you're ready to go home, I'm not.
Mm.
And that's the difference. And so then with like mushroom and acid, like the first couple trips were cool, but then I always have bad trips. And like the worst trip I ever had is, and this was like the last one, I locked myself in. We were taking acid in my buddy's basement at his parents' house, and I locked myself in his bathroom. And I just remember like laying on the floor, hugging the toilet, and just praying like, God, just like make this trip like end. And so that was it. But I was an addict, so I still then wanted to find a different high. And then I got into ecstasy.
Mm.
You ever done ecstasy?
No, I haven't done that one.
Okay. So ecstasy, I loved ecstasy because that would make me super loving.
Mm.
Like,
That's Molly, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So like, I just want to be like hugging on you or hugging on whoever's around me, and I'd be telling you that I love you.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that when you take ecstasy, it actually drains all the serotonin in your brain.
Yep. I heard that.
And so then I get into depression, and then I got suicidal thoughts.
Damn.
So I stopped doing the ecstasy, or as the kids say now, Molly. And then I got into cocaine. And when I got into cocaine, like that gave me the confidence. I'm in high school still, so that gave me the confidence to talk to girls.
Mm.
And it also allowed me to drink the way that I wanted to drink because I could like maintain like this level where if I got without cocaine, I would just go like this.
You would black out.
Right? Yeah. And but when you do the cocaine, like you can continue to drink all night. But eventually I became like a violent cocaine user.
Were you an angry drunk? Like you got in fights a lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a friend like that.
Yeah.
I hated going out with him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I was a little punk.
Yeah.
I mean, I was little, but I always had like the older friends or the bigger friends. And so I would start the fights, but they would finish them for me.
Got it.
But I can only imagine being that friend, right? Like that would suck to have a friend like that.
Yeah. Especially these days with social media. Because back then you got in fights, no one knew about it.
Yeah.
It was low key. But
Yeah.
now it's all over the internet as soon as you do it now.
That's what I tell my kids. Like I got 2 teenage daughters and 2 younger boys, and I tell them girls, like, whatever you do now, if it's on video, like, it's there forever.
Yep.
It's gonna haunt you.
Yeah, getting in fights isn't worth it anymore. 'Cause
No.
now you'll just get sued.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially someone like you, we'll
Yeah.
dive into the business side of things soon, but crazy story sounds like.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I got to like acid and shrooms and then I stopped there.
Okay.
I didn't do anything crazier than that.
Okay.
But those two, specifically shrooms, changed my life for the better, I'd say.
Okay. You still take shrooms?
I microdose.
You microdose?
Yeah, I don't do full trips anymore.
Yep.
I think I'd have a terrible trip if I did, to be honest.
Yeah.
But microdosing is a game changer.
Okay, so tell me about how you said that shrooms like changed your life actually for the good. Like why?
Perspective. So like I went to Amsterdam in high school when my first business was e-commerce. So I was making decent money, like 6 figures as a high schooler,
Yeah.
or college, first year of college.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, I did shrooms and just walked 8 miles straight, smiled the whole time around Amsterdam.
Okay.
Just opened my eyes to just all these new perspectives in
Yeah.
life. Because I was so boxed in living in the town I grew up in.
In Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just motivated me to get out there and hustle.
And that's the difference between like you and me. Like, even for my wife, like she could have a glass of wine a night, half a glass of wine, like, and she's good. I need the whole bottle. And so for you, like, and I have friends that could still smoke pot today and they're functioning and they're successful, but it just affects my brain different. There's just this
Would you
chemical
say it's
imbalance.
like an addictive personality maybe?
Yeah, at 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I have that too, but I can channel it, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Tell me
Like-
more about the microdosing.
Well, it's like I don't like pharmaceutical drugs.
Okay.
So like instead of taking an Adderall or a Vyvanse, I'd rather just microdose a mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Get the same effect, if not better. No after effects, no burnout. So you're just locked in.
So the microdosing, is it like drinking a tea?
Yeah, just like a stimulant, gets your brain flowing.
Like I don't know anything about that world anymore. So
Yeah, so
tell me
you
like,
take 1/10 of your dose. So say you eat an eighth of shrooms.
Yeah.
A microdose would be 1/10 of that.
and is it still shroom? Is it
It's
still
still the same thing, yeah.
and they taste like garbage?
I do it in the pill form, so I just swallow it. I don't taste
okay.
it. Yeah, but
Okay.
no, shrooms taste like shit, dude. I've
Yeah.
thrown up from eating shrooms before because they grow on cow shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've had some bad trips with that.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, dude, it's interesting. Everyone's got their own thing. Some people it's coffee. Some people it's microdosing,
Yeah.
psychedelic. Some people are all natural.
No, mine's definitely coffee. And then I got these damn nicotine pouches.
Dave Asprey takes those. He brought one on the podcast and I got dizzy taking that shit. That
Did
shit
you?
was strong.
Yeah.
5 mgs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those do help with focus though.
They do.
Just for me, I've never done nicotine before, so I didn't have a tolerance.
Yeah, stay away from it.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's addictive.
anything to give me an edge, man.
All right. So for you, like you're in Amsterdam, at what age are you in Amsterdam?
I was 19, I believe. Yeah, freshman year of college.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're 28 now.
28, almost 10 years. High school reunion is this year, which is crazy.
You gonna go?
I might go.
Okay.
Going back and forth. Might be a coin flip.
Okay.
Did you go to yours?
I think I went to the 10 year and that was it.
That must have been interesting for you because people thought you were probably like you were a drug addict back then, right?
Well, let's see. So 10, I would have been around 27. Yeah. I mean, I was 27. That's like the year I got sober.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't start business yet, really?
No. I wasn't at 27. No, I'm newly married, newly sober, and actually I can't quite remember like exact timing of the high school reunion of where I was at in life, but I know in that first year of sobriety, like I lost everything.
Damn. All your friends, family.
More on the material side. So my first year of sobriety, we had our house that we were living in. Then we also had 2 investment properties, and we lost all 3 to foreclosure.
Oh, because this was the 08 crash, right?
This would have been, I guess right around there.
Yeah, the real estate market tanked.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah. And so we lost everything to the point where, like, I had I've told the story a lot, not to you, but to many, where, I've got a Land Rover in the driveway, I've got a Rolex on my wrist, and I've got, money in the bank account, but my character was shit. And so God was like, listen, son, like, and I was ungrateful. You know what I mean? Like I had our house that we're living in. I had the 2 investment properties, newly married to my beautiful wife, who's still my wife today. But I'm just like, God, like when I was homeless, I wanted to kill myself. And now that I have everything that I ever wanted, I still want to kill myself. So like, what's the whole point of like this thing that's called life?
Wow.
And I believe that it was then where God was like, son, like I've given you everything you ever wanted and you're still ungrateful. So now it's time for me to work on your character. And so I'm going to go ahead and strip everything away from you. And that's what he did. And he first started with the Rolex watch. I had to go to the pawn shop and sell the Rolex just so I make one mortgage payment.
Mm.
Then I had to drive that fancy Land Rover that I was so proud of to the food shelf. And they had to load the groceries in the back of that Land Rover. And I was humiliated. And so what he was doing is he was stripping away my pride and my ego. And when he stripped away my pride and my ego, then I was ready to depend on him and not on my own abilities. Because before that time, I would tell you how great I am.
Mm.
And look at all the stuff that I've accumulated because of how great I am. But God wanted to be like, son, like everything that you have, including your abilities, is the gifts that I've blessed you with. And so when he took that stuff away, I had to quickly learn how to depend on him versus on my own abilities. And then he started to bless me, right? And it started with people. So he put first a sponsor in my life.
Mm.
And then also, obviously have my wife, so I put a sponsor in my life. And so I went into AA and my sponsor was like, listen, like, if you want to work with me, like you've got to do exactly what I tell you. And so he said, we're going to meet once a week and we're going to go through the big book. And I'm going to take you through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You're also going to go to a minimum of 3 meetings a week. And you're also going to do service work. And so in that service work, I'd go to a local, not a food shelf, but basically where there was hot meals and like the homeless youth would come through and we put, hot meals on their plates. But what that taught me was I was in this like poor me, this victim mentality. And when they'd come through, I'd be like thinking in my own head, like, wow, like my life isn't actually that bad. Like I actually still have a wife that loves me. I still have people in my life that want to be around me. And I might be on the verge of losing my houses, but I still have a way to have shelter, right? And so I started to get this attitude of gratitude. And so this is 18 years ago. But then my wife also encouraged me to go to church, right? So God's working through people. He's working through my sponsor to work my character. He's working through my wife. He's working through the pastor. And before I grew up in a religious household, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so around the age of like 19, 20 is when I wrote off God. I actually didn't want anything to do with it because religion and God to me were the same thing. But she encouraged me to go to this church. And at this church, this pastor, and it's a big church, like probably 1,000 people in this church. And the pastor's like, hey, like, I don't care if you've ever been to prison, you're a prostitute, you're a drug addict, like you're welcome here. And that was the first time I ever heard that from the pulpit. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'll continue to come back. Because I felt like he was talking right to me, even though he's talking to 1,000 people. And so that's when my life, really started to change.
Wow. What a journey, man. And you're still on it now. Now you're crushing it.
Yeah.
When did the business start from there? Was it shortly after that you started going to church?
Yeah. So like becoming even a millionaire and then a multimillionaire, that didn't happen until I was 40 years old.
Wow.
I'm 45 now. So I made my first million in my family's bank account when I was 40 years old. And how that happened is in 2017, the gentleman that was my sponsor, now 18 years ago, he started a roofing company And he said, he called me one day and he's like, hey, I was meditating and God told me to call you and ask you to be a partner in my company. And at that same time, my wife and I and our 4 kids, we're living out in Newport Beach, California. And I was on my knees and I was praying and I said, because my wife and my oldest daughter wanted to move back to Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to stay in Cali because I came from a trailer park. So I was living my dream. We were broke, but I was still living my dream. And that was to be out on the beach. And I'm praying like, God, if you want us to move back to Minnesota, like you're going to have to open that door wide open. And if you don't want us to, like, just go ahead and slam that door shut in Courtney's face and let her know, like, we're supposed to be here in Cali and stay here and all is going to be well. But if that is your will, just let me know. And that same day I got that call. And the call was, I was meditating and God told me to ask you to be a partner of my company. So I told Courtney that. And then Courtney was like, all right, well, when do we move?
Wow. I love that.
So we moved back to Minnesota. And at the time, the company is doing like 1.5 million in revenue. Had about 8 sales reps, including my partner.
This is a roofing company?
Yep. And the deal was that I had to double the annual revenue of the company in that very first year. And so I had to go out and sell myself. And in this business and in that market, we get a lot of hailstorms. And the sales is driven by door knocking.
Old school.
Yeah. And so I'd never not knocked the door in my life. But we moved back and we moved back with a purpose. And so I went out and I started knocking on doors. And I generated 1.2 million in revenue by myself that first year.
Wow.
So, and then we had other sales reps. And so we did $3 million. We did it. And so then I made partner. And then like the next year we did like 6 million. Then I think like 9 million, then like 14 million, then like 20 million. And then eventually we hit 35 million. And then we sold that company to a private equity group a couple years ago.
Well done, dude. 35 million going door to door.
Yeah.
That's the grind right there.
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible. So you had to get good at sales.
I had to get good at door knocking sales.
And that's a really cold lead.
Dude, that is a cold lead.
Coldest probably you could get.
I think so. Like, I was telemarketing, did that kind of sales for years. You've got 3 different phases or stages of sales, right? Or levels. You got where let's say you work at Best Buy, right? Or a Verizon, wireless cell phone store. You got customers coming into you. They're there for your product.
Right.
That's one sale. Then the next sale is telemarketing. So you got a cold call. With a cold call, though, if they tell you to F off, like you can hang up and just dial the next number. But when you door knock, the homeowner could tell you to F off, slam the door in your face, and now you got to do the walk of shame. And to me, that's the biggest mental gymnastics because then you have to physically walk to the next door, knowing that person, the neighbor, just told you to F off, they slammed the door in your face, and you don't know if they just called their neighbor, right, to give them a heads up that this knucklehead is coming to knock on your door. And you just gotta stay positive. And you just gotta, for me, I just look at it as a numbers game where I'd actually thank them. So I'd be like, you know what? In my head, I'd be like, hey, thank you. I'm just one more no closer to a yes. And that's what worked for me.
What was the ratio out of like 100 houses? What percent did you close?
I would just say like 10%.
Okay.
Right. So you knock
That's
on
actually higher than I thought.
You knock on 100 doors. Well, I'll break it down like this. See, if you knock on 100 doors, not everybody's gonna be home. Not everybody's gonna answer. So you knock on 100 doors, you're gonna get 10 people to answer. And then out of those 10, for me, I'd get 1.
Okay. So 1 out of 100.
1 out of 100.
Okay. So 1%.
Right? Doors that you knock. But it was strictly just a numbers game. So I didn't even care about like how good my pitch was. I just looked at it as a numbers game. I'm gonna get that one person who probably just says yes to everybody when it comes to being sold. And if you just grind and you got a strong work ethic, like you're going to be successful. And then successful in that business is, making, anywhere from 100. I mean, there's one guy that makes over $1 million knocking
Damn.
doors,
Just commission based?
just commission based. But I would say the majority is, from anywhere from, 100, probably 250 grand. That's probably the normal. And then you got your rock stars, right? You got your guys that'll make 500,000, 600,000, but you got your outlier that,
100 to 250 solid for no college degree. And you could start at a pretty young age.
Dude, what was cool about our company is that 70% of our staff were in recovery.
Wow. So that was a passion point for you.
It was a passion point.
You saw yourself in them, right?
Yeah. And 30% of them were felons.
Wow. So you didn't care about criminal record?
I didn't. I should say, as long as there wasn't any kind of like, predatory type stuff,
Yeah.
Where our employees, the most of their criminal background, maybe some of it was, assault charges, but the majority of it was drug related.
Yeah. Yeah. Because back then you could get arrested for weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is now legal almost everywhere.
Correct. Yeah. So we had guys that went to prison for, selling a lot of dope, and where now it's illegal.
A lot of entrepreneurs started selling weed, man.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I did.
That was mine. I was 15.
Yeah.
I was 15 when I started selling dope.
in high school or college. No, I did in college. Pay for my food.
Okay. You're selling dope or
weed? Yeah. Is that what weed is? I don't know the terms these days.
And I'm 45. So it might be called something different, but all right. So you're selling weed in college. I was selling weed when I was 15. So would you buy it in the pounds, or like how'd you start out?
No, I never got to the pound level.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to like a QP or a HP is the most.
Okay.
And then I would split that with someone just so I'd be able to smoke for free and then cover my liquor and eating expenses for the week or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was in room 420 in my hall. So it only
Shut up.
Yeah, it made
Shut
sense.
up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
It was destiny.
What? It was destiny.
Yeah. So I had to. Come on. If you get room 420 and you're not doing weed.
Dude, that's a crazy story.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom was a little old school, a little slap in the face sometimes.
Yeah.
I think tough love is good though.
Yeah.
It worked on me. Because you still need a little bit of respect and fear, if you're going to listen.
Well, it's, I think that's one thing that's different about today, right? Where society says how you can correct your children. For me growing up, I want to honor my dad. He wasn't in the picture from the age of 14 to 24, and then he ultimately died when he's 56. He's also an addict and alcoholic. So my stepdad, he really raised me, but we didn't see eye to eye, growing up, and he definitely parented me differently than how I parent my children today, and the reason is because of how I was parented. Growing up, I'm purposefully different in how I discipline my children because of that. But I still believe that, like in the Bible, right? Not to spare the rod. I don't beat my kids, but I'm still firm with them.
Yeah.
But not as firm as maybe how children were raised, especially like back in the 1950s.
Oh, back in the day, you're getting fist fights with your parents.
Oh, well, I don't even know if you're getting fist fight. Like your dad's pounding on you in the 1950s, right? Like you're not talking back.
Oh, my dad.
Unless you're grown.
No, my dad grew up on a farm and they got worked to death, man.
Yeah,
but that's how it was.
Yeah.
These days you can't. Yeah, you lay a hand, you're getting canceled.
Yeah.
You lay a hand on your kids.
Yeah.
Times have changed, but like you said, the respect needs to be there.
Correct.
Now I see a lot of kids walking over their parents.
Yep.
They're just glued to their phones or whatever. They don't even listen to their parents at the dinner table.
Dude, the phones, the iPads, like it's a problem.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even see it with my kids, today with like my boys, they love Fortnite.
I'm playing after this, man.
Are you really?
Tonight. Yeah.
Are you?
But I got a good relationship with it. I'm not addicted.
Yeah, you're also grown.
Yeah. But I use it more to de-stress.
Okay.
After working a long week, we'll play a little bit on the weekends, me and my fiance. So for us, it's a bonding activity.
Your fiance will?
Yeah.
Really?
She's gotten good. Shout out to Ariel, man. Yeah. She used to be And I'll say this to her face, but she used to be trash at the game,
Okay.
but she's good now.
Yeah, because she school you?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
I used to be a big gamer nerd.
You were?
Huge gamer nerd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you like streaming and all that?
No, this was before streaming. This
Okay.
was when parents said to never play video games. You'll never make a living out of it. And now they're streamers, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like top 1,000 in the world in any game I played. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, I was super nerdy with it. I would skip school to play video games.
I want to know more about you. So when you went to school, like, what did you go to school for?
I tried going for business at Rutgers
Okay.
in Jersey, but I couldn't get in because of my GPA.
Okay.
So I dropped out.
Okay.
Yeah, I dropped out after freshman year.
After freshman year.
Yeah,
And then you went abroad?
I just at the time I was running a business, so I went all in on the business.
What was your business?
It was e-commerce. I was selling sports jerseys.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would message NBA players off my Instagram page,
Yeah.
send them free jerseys.
Yeah.
Some of them would post it and tag me. And that's how I grew that business. We did a $1.2 million in our peak year.
Shut up.
Yeah. And I was like 20, 21.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that was my start into entrepreneurship,
That's huge, man.
influencer marketing.
And you still have that today, don't you?
No, I don't run it anymore. Kind of
Okay.
fizzled out.
It did.
Plus the margins are thin in e-commerce.
Okay.
But I learned a lot about marketing, influencers, how to build a social media profile, how to grow followers.
Okay.
That was a great first business for me.
Take me from selling the jerseys to then starting
The pod.
digital social. Yeah.
A lot of fails. Made
Okay.
and lost my money twice,
Okay.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
At my age, I've already made and lost it twice. Made a lot in crypto, lost a lot in crypto. During the pandemic, I was selling masks, PPE equipment to
Mhm.
governments and hospitals.
Yeah.
Did $15 million in sales.
Shut up.
Yeah. So that business, I learned how to cold email, how to talk to older people, because
Mm-hmm.
all those people in procurement are like 50s, 60s, 70s. How to partner with the right people.
Yeah.
Each business, I learn a lot with different things. So now with the podcast, I just took everything I learned from every single business I've done.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it was pretty successful. This is like one of my later businesses.
Is this your main hustle?
Yeah, I have events too.
Okay.
But this is the main one right now.
What kind of events do you throw?
Networking events.
Yeah, I think did you just do one in Austin?
Yeah, a few
You
days ago.
You got another one in Miami?
Million during F1, yeah. We have the biggest F1 networking events in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, no paid ads, all organic, word of mouth.
So the $15 million company, did you just fizzle that out? Did you just sell it? What'd
It
you
was
do
a
with it?
seasonal. There's seasonal companies I've done. That was one of them because it was just during the pandemic.
Okay.
Where people were just buying up PPE.
Then did you take the proceeds from that? You dumped it into
Dumped it
podcast?
into crypto.
into crypto?
Crypto. Made a lot, lost a lot, and then started the pod shortly after that.
And how long ago did you start the pod?
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
First episode was in March 2 years ago.
How many followers did you have before you started the pod?
Good question. I'm not sure. It was a lot though. 'Cause I was already spending a lot on ads.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a lot? Like $1 million, $5
I
million
probably spent on my Instagram page alone probably over $1 million
in 1 year?
overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry. So that's the amount of money that you're spending on advertising. But how many followers? Like you said, you had a lot. But what is a lot?
It was in the millions. I
It
don't know
was.
the exact if it was 5 or 8 or whatever. But,
Okay.
But now with the pod, we're just growing like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're close to 12 million followers now.
Dude, but more impressively is the views. 150 million views a month.
A month.
Yeah. On Instagram alone.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah. Like the followers don't mean as much as the views to me because
Yeah.
you could have a ton of followers. Doesn't really matter. I care more about engagement.
Yep.
So
I'm brand new to this world.
yeah, I noticed when I was doing research,
Yeah.
when I do research on guests, the
Okay.
first thing I do is I go on YouTube and search what podcasts they've been
Yeah.
on and I watch them.
Okay.
I can only find you interviewing someone else
Oh.
on your channel.
Yeah.
So is this your first time as a guest?
First time as a guest.
Nice. I'm
Yeah.
honored you chose this show.
Dude, I'm honored to be here, man.
Yeah,
You know?
but I was like, damn, I got to find some stuff on this guy. So I watched that one and I went through your Instagram and found what I could.
Okay. I'm an open book. So whatever questions you got for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah.
My heart though, it's really for, the still suffering addict and alcoholic who's out there. And that's my passion. My passion is to really inspire,
Yeah.
truly, because I
cool,
came from
man.
nothing, dude. I came from nothing and now I'm a multimillionaire. In all humility, all glory to God. But I know that my story is unique in that most people don't get to say what I just said when they came from where I came from.
Yeah. American
You know?
dream, baby.
American dream.
You're alive and proving it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cool story because it's kind of relatable. A lot of people suffer with addictions, whether it's drugs or whatever, and to see you come out on top of it.
And as I tell guys that I sponsor, and then as I used to tell my employees, there's nothing special about Tony Wells in regards to like, I don't come from a pedigree family. I don't have a college education. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. And yet here I sit. So if I did it, so can you. And that's the whole thing. Like if I did it, so can you.
Yeah.
But you have to be clear on what do you want.
Yeah.
And to the haters, they might say like, oh, money isn't everything. No, I agree with you. Money isn't everything, but it definitely opens up doors and gives you opportunities.
Agreed.
So whatever you want, if it's not the $1 million, then what do you want? What is your pursuit of happiness? And go after that. You're not a victim. Don't sit in victimhood. Don't sit in the pity pot like I used to. Kick all that mental garbage out of your head and realize that when your will is aligned with God's will, like you can have whatever you want. You can do whatever you want when there's that alignment, because God's favor will be all over you. And what I realized is that when I got aligned with him, and what that means for me is when I got my finances aligned with him, meaning that I was not just tithing, to the church, but I was actually giving on top of the tithing to the church, also giving to other organizations. Then God was like, listen, son, like now I can trust you. So I'm going to continue to fund you because I know that I can get that money through you. And all this silly stuff that you like Tony, like you like the cars and you like the watches and you like to sit courtside at the NBA games. Like you can have that, son. Like, I don't care. Like that's nothing to me. It's important to you. And so you can have it because you're being good and faithful. And that's the same message that I give to my kids. Like, as long as they're grateful and as long as they keep a kind heart and that they love on others, like some would say then that they're spoiled. But it's like, I have the means to do it. And God has an abundance of means. We as humans are the only ones who actually put a value on the price of a Lamborghini or a mansion on the ocean in Miami or something like that. We as humans are the only ones that do it. God's like, whether it's $100 million house or a $200,000 house, it's all same to me.
Yeah.
So for my child, if I can give him a $1,000 bicycle or $100 bicycle, it doesn't matter to me.
I love that.
But their heart posture has to be correct.
Yeah, I love that, man. Gratitude is super important to me.
Attitude, gratitude, baby.
Yeah. So I still personally text every single person that comes to my events. And I thank them for coming.
Really?
It takes me like so long now because now we're getting thousands of people.
Yeah.
But my first ever event, I had 20 people. 20 people showed up and it was kind of embarrassing, honestly. But out of those 20 people, I still talk to like 5 of them every single day.
Wow.
This was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And that community's grown into now 2,000 plus people come to my events.
2,000 people.
And I personally text every single one and I thank them. I'm just grateful for them.
That's not normal. You know that, right?
No, I used to be able to do it in a day, but now I have to break it up into a week, 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why don't you outsource that to AI? But I'm like, dude, some things need to be personal. When I'm thanking someone, I don't want it to be a copy paste thank message. Like,
it's a real thank you.
Yeah, and they feel it. They come up to me at the events and they're like, holy shit, no one's ever done that before. I get invited to so many conferences and no one's ever done that.
What drives you?
It's something to do with the podcast and the messaging, because I've done a lot of businesses before this, like we talked about, and money was the number one goal in the past, but that's no longer how I think and operate.
How do you think and operate now?
More about like getting messages across and impacting people, inspiring people, helping people. This podcast, just the messages I get from the show. Yeah. You wouldn't believe some of these messages. Like, I'm really helping people. It's cool.
Give me one that really touched your heart. Where you're like, man, I really am doing a good thing here.
Dude, I've stopped a couple suicides.
Really?
Yeah, there's been a couple of those. There's been a couple just like, I like the veteran stuff a lot. I have on a lot of veterans.
Okay.
And just helping those guys get their message because those guys been through a lot.
Yeah.
And just seeing the comments, it's like really inspiring.
Dude, the suicide one, that one touches me is, you know, when I was 17 is the first time I wanted to kill myself.
Mhm.
Then when I was 23, I wanted to kill myself. And then when I was 27, and, you know, people ask me like, why'd you start a podcast? Right? Like, basically you're retired now, Tony. So why this? Or, you know, what are you going to do next?
You could have done anything.
Yeah. And I believe that now with social media, that if I would have had access to social media when I was 15, I think I could have gotten here a lot sooner, because I would have been able to watch Sean Kelly, whether it's your story or one of your guests,
Yeah.
and I would have had access to that. And I believe that God would have put a guest on your show, right? I'm just going to use you as an example. Would have put a guest on your show, and it would have magically came into my feed, and I would have watched it when I was 15 years old, and I would have been inspired, right? I would have seen maybe the Tony Wells at 45 years old, and he's sharing his story, and I'd be like, man, like I relate with that guy. Like that's my story. I came from the trailer park. Like I was selling dope, and wow, he got through it, right?
Yeah.
Or with your story or one of your other guests, and I mean, you just said it. You stopped a couple of suicides.
And those were just
because they watched it.
Yeah, I've messaged, so it could be even more. But it hits deep with me too, man. Lost my grandfather to it and my father, so yeah, it hits deep.
Yeah,
I want to end that cycle for sure.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, Tony, it's been an honor, man. Can't wait to see you in Minnesota. Maybe courtside at one of the games.
Dude, you got to come.
I know. I've never been courtside before.
What?
Yeah, so that's a hard offer to turn down. I'll be there.
Oh, dude, come on. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes.
See some Ann Edwards in action.
Oh, dude.
I love it.
Yep.
All right, man. We'll link your stuff below. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, thank you, bro.
Yep. Check them out, guys. Peace.